Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Church here in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Vera O'Brien, and I'm very pleased to be back with you again this morning. We are Unitarian Universalists. Ours is a historic faith with a progressive theology. We affirm the worth and dignity of every being and that we are all interconnected. We are bound to one another not by creed, but by covenant. And we are called to love with open minds, open hearts, and open hands. Whoever you are, those of all nations, all creeds, all colors, all kinds of love, you are welcome here. These are the words of Mark Harris for our chalice lighting. We give thanks for life reborn. We give thanks for joy to overcome loss and pain. We give thanks for the earth as it blooms its renewal. We give thanks that all living things are revived. And as a sign of our gratitude, we light this chalice to welcome all new songs of life. Let us continue with hymn number 300, with heart and mind. We continue with our affirmation printed in the order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. We have wintered enough, mourned enough, oppressed ourselves enough. Our souls are too long cold and buried, our dreams all but forgotten, our hopes unheard. We are waiting to rise from the dead. In this, the season of steady rebirth, we awaken to the power so abundant, so holy, that returns each year through earth and sky. We will find our hearts again and our good spirits. We will love and believe and give and wonder and feel again the eternal powers. The flow of life moves ever onward through one faithful spring and another and now another. May we be forever grateful. Alleluia. Amen. Are there any announcements this morning?
Supposedly someone, is it on? Yeah. Someone was seen kind of wandering around here trying car doors, 3 days ago. So lock your cars, lock your cars, that's.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome, Vera. It's so nice to see you again. I'm so glad you could join us today to lead us in worship. And I wanted to let everyone know to remind everyone next week is Easter, and Danielle DeBono will be here again to lead us in worship. So please do come. Danielle.
So I apologize to those of you who have given me your phone numbers, because I've badgered you over the last week with my first experience with an estate sale. And so for those of you whose phone numbers I don't have, today is the last day of the selling of still a lot of stuff, and it's also giveaway day, so good opportunity to get something free. I always tell folks, remember the hurricane of '38? This crowd mostly would remember that it existed because somebody told you about it. And your mother's, or maybe your favorite clothing store, Cherry and Webb, that's the address, 38 Cherry and Webb Lane in West Point, from noon to 4. We are right putting out 20 years of collecting anything and everything people gave me to fill up this beach house. So please come and take something away.
We have one announcement, and it's very serious. We're skipping the summer, we're going back to winter.
You're not allowed to make any more announcements. That's it.
Let us continue in the spirit of prayer and meditation. In the holy quiet of this promising hour of spring, may we purge ourselves of coldness of spirit, that warm spring breezes may thaw our souls. May the debris of wrongs unforgiven be gathered and discarded so we can start anew. May slowness of spirit frozen by cold be quickened to every fresh possibility. May the song that has lingered too long in our lungs be inspired by twittering bird choruses. May the grime of mistakes made be rinsed from our minds with the springtime waters of self-forgiveness. May we muster the strength to do our own spring house cleaning of the spirit. Amen. I invite you to join me in a responsive reading, number 660 in the back of the hymnal, "To Live Deliberately" by Henry David Thoreau. Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of time? I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I do not wish to live what is not life. Living is so dear. I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. If it proves to be mean, then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. The fourth commandment passed down to Moses on Mount Sinai was remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Do you have any memories of honoring the Sabbath? Many of us remember when stores weren't open on Sundays, children's soccer games weren't scheduled on Sundays, and many other activities were paused for the day. Or maybe your Sabbath began with the lighting of the Shabbat candles on Friday night and continued till sundown on Saturday if your family was Jewish. Some people, like my friend Nancy, remember the restrictions of her conservative Protestant faith. After Sunday school, she couldn't go to the beach with us or the movies or most other places. It was a lonely time for her. Others have wonderful memories of family dinners, special family times together, and the wonderful Jewish tradition of blessing the children before the Sabbath meal. I would like to suggest today that we consider reclaiming the idea of Sabbath in a UU way, of course. Is it a coincidence that the major religions of the world all have a related tradition of rest? Some Buddhists use a lunar Sabbath on the new, full, and quarter moons as a day for monks and lay people to feast together and meditate. Muslims consider Fridays a day of rest. And in the Jewish tradition, Shabbat begins on sundown on Friday and continues till sundown on Saturday. Many Christian denominations still consider Sunday a day of rest. Reverend Wayne Mueller, in his book, Sabbath, Restoring the Sacred Rhythm of Rest, discusses the relationship of a Sabbath day to the rest of creation. He says, there is yet one more aspect of Sabbath that I find particularly delicious. God creates the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day, God rests. He says, but a closer reading of Genesis reveals that the seventh day was not simply a day off. It says on the seventh day, God finished God's work. How can this be? Wasn't the seventh day when God took time off and rested, satisfied with the work of creation? The ancient rabbis taught that on the seventh day, God created menuah, tranquility, serenity, peace and repose and rest. And in the deepest possible sense of healing, stillness. Until the birth of tranquility and rest, the circle of creation was not made full and complete. I would add that only with the birth and celebration of tranquility and rest are our own lives made full and complete. So does honoring the Sabbath still have meaning for our lives today? I believe it does. I believe that as our culture becomes more and more secular and as consumerism and technology take hold in many new ways, that it's critical for our well-being that we create Sabbath time, sacred moments in our day-to-day lives. And I believe we need to practice creating these moments in the same way that we practice many other activities in our lives. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against technology. I can start to have withdrawal if the internet is down for any length of time. But I do wonder about the cost of the progress we have made. Reverend Mueller reminds us, and I can remember this, that in the 1950s and 60s, articles in magazines agonized over the perplexing dilemma looming ahead of us. What are we going to do with all this leisure time? Experts confidently predicted that thanks to the efficiency of automation and the proliferation of near miraculous labor-saving devices, we'd all be working 20-hour work weeks, and we'd be overwhelmed by the sheer weight of so much leisure time. So what happened? He says, we traded leisure time for more work and greater pay so that we could afford to buy more and more products. When the figures are adjusted for inflation, we now spend twice as much for larger houses and for twice as many cars and our appliances, clothes, and televisions. Can we honestly say that we are happier for it? Do we sense that our neighbors, friends, and families are more at ease, more joyful, and have more peace? Do we feel in them a sense of well-being and delight? If not, why not? Our cars are faster, our telephones go with us around the globe, our computers reach into every part of our lives, even our dishwashers are more efficient. Our medicines are more powerful, our armies are better equipped, and our buildings are safer and climate controlled. We have everything we ever wanted, or do we? Mueller says this is the theology of progress. Only when we get to the end can we lie down in green pastures, be led beside still waters, and allow our soul to be restored, as the psalmist wrote in the 23rd Psalm. This is the psalm we often read or sing when people are dying or have died. This is the psalm we save for death because in the world of progress, you don't rest in green pastures. You do not lie before still waters. There is no time. Creating Sabbath moments challenges the theology of progress by reminding us that we are already and always on sacred ground. The gifts of grace and delight are present and abundant. The time to live and love and give thanks and delight is now, this moment, this day. Yes, we are strong and capable people, especially us New Englanders. We can work without stopping, and we have electric lights to ever expand our work time. But remember, no other living thing lives like this. There are greater rhythms to govern how life grows. Circadian rhythms, seasons, hormonal cycles, sunsets and moonrises, and the great movements of the stars and seas. Many scientists believe we are even hardwired like this, to live in a rhythm of awareness, to be in and step out, to be engrossed and detached, to work and then to rest. I think it's interesting to note that this is the only commandment that begins with remember. Remember the Sabbath, as if we might forget and need to be reminded to rest. So how do we reclaim the Sabbath? I would suggest we start with Sabbath moments and Sabbath hours amidst the responsibilities of our lives, and then maybe move on to a Sabbath day. Some of us, myself included, may need to schedule time to make rest a priority like the other activities we make time for. Martha Whitmore Hickman wrote a book called A Day of Rest, Creating a Spiritual Space in Your Week. Here are a few of her suggestions. I especially liked this first one. Take a book you loved as a child to a nearby park or a special place and let its meanings and associations come to you again. I remember a book called Blueberry Summer that I think it would be fun to read again. What might you choose? or unplug the landline and turn off your cell phone. Then ask, what do I want to do the most with this day? If it's to reconnect the phone and call someone, go ahead, but maybe breathe for a minute or two first. You might even surprise someone by writing a letter you haven't made time for. In this age of texts and emails, letters have become something much more precious. The writer and poet May Sardin, according to a biographer, had a lifelong habit of spending Sunday mornings at her desk, writing letters in what she called my religious service devoted to friendship. I have a few overdue letters to write, and I bet you might too. There is no right or wrong practice. What's important is that it's meaningful to you and that you find renewal in it. Many people find that nature is an important part of the rest and renewal process. Henry David Thoreau said, "There were times when I could not afford to sacrifice the bloom of the present moment to any work, whether of head or hands. Sometimes in the summer morning, having taken my accustomed bath, I sat in my sunny doorway from sunrise till noon, wrapped in a reverie amidst the pines and hickories and sumacs, in undisturbed solitude and stillness, while the birds sang around. I grew in those seasons like corn in the night, and they were far better than any of the work of my hands would have been. They were not subtracted from my life, but so much over and above my usual allowance." A Buddhist teacher that I know says, there are a good many people who resist the idea of spiritual practice. They believe that the sacred is to be found in miracles or chance encounters. Sometimes they simply haven't found a practice that suits them. But a Zen master says, when enlightenment experiences happen, they are accidents. He then added, spiritual practices can make us accident prone. Sabbath time, whether a day or an hour or a series of moments, is our opportunity to develop a spiritual practice, to heal and to restore the sacred to our lives. Many of us are afraid of what we'll find in the silence. We stay busy and avoid it. But in my experience, silence is one of the most profound ways of restoring the sacred and of resting. I sometimes go on silent retreats, but we don't need to leave home or even have a special place. There are many opportunities during the day where we have a few moments to breathe, to relax, to smile and enjoy the peace of silence. Even standing in line, waiting for an elevator or an appointment, even at a stoplight, we can take a moment and relax and breathe. If we don't practice our faith in tangible ways, we may not find the support we expect our faith to provide at a time of crisis. If we don't practice our faith, will it support us when it's time to die? If death arrived unexpectedly, would we be ready? Are we prepared for the moment of death? Do you have a practice that will be second nature to you? What thoughts would you want to have fill your mind? I invite you to take time while healthy and happy to consider how you might spend your last conscious moments. Will your current spiritual practice sustain you? Or do you need to make some adjustments and maybe create some Sabbath moments to practice? My mother faced her death with great calmness and courage. She was ready. After her diagnosis of mesothelioma from putting asbestos on the pipes in the Hingham shipyard during World War II, she kept track of the fine balance of her medications in those small spiral notebooks. After her death, I found a whole drawer of these notebooks and a surprise. Every day, along with the list of the medications, she wrote a prayer of gratitude, prayers for those who were ill, all kinds of prayers. This was one of her daily practices. She faced her death with courage and helped us do the same because of her lifelong spiritual practice. She died as she lived, practicing gratefulness for her life. After her death and many other deaths since then, my own variety of practices have helped me immeasurably. I came to see firsthand the benefit of having a spiritual practice. As I would rest in silence, and if I sat long enough, somewhere beneath the sadness, I would find the peace and healing that Thich Nhat Hanh spoke about when he wrote, "Our true home is in the present moment. To live in the present moment is a miracle. The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth in the present moment, to appreciate the peace and beauty that are available now. Peace is all around us, in the world and in nature and within us, in our bodies and spirits. Once we learn to touch this peace, we will be healed and transformed. It is not a matter of faith, it is a matter of practice." In this season of spring and Easter, may we all consider reclaiming the Sabbath and making it our own, if only for a few moments or hours during our busy weeks. May we all be renewed for the living of these days and all the days to come. Amen. We continue now with the offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, as a community of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. This is the time in our service that we share our joys and concerns. Some of us come today in joy. We share your joy. Some of us come today with heavy hearts. We open our hearts to you.
Okay, is this on? Yes. Okay, I've got a couple of things. One is my mother, who's going to be 100 years old on May 4th, so we're all excited about that. But she has made a decision that on the recommendation of her heart doctor, she's going to have valve replacement on March 28th. And I've been going through this process with her, driving her to the hospital, coming in, as for tests, this and that. I'm not 100% sure she should go through with this, but she wants to, so we're going to support her decision in that. And I feel very apprehensive about it, and but she's going to be 100, and if it's the wrong decision, you know what, she's had a great long life, so that's on my mind. The other thing is, I have 3 sisters, one of whom I haven't spoken to in 10 years. And I found out this week that she has breast cancer again, and we'll probably have a mastectomy. And I'm really grateful that at Christmas time I did send her a card for the first time in 10 years, and I wrote a really loving note in that card at Christmas. I'm just so grateful I did that. And I feel for her, and I love her because we share a common childhood. It's just raked up a whole lot of feelings for me right now. And so I guess this is all concerns. And that's it.
John.
Okay. I believe today is Palm Sunday. I know that Al has some palms over here. But I don't know where you picked them up. But anyway, Nancy and I, on the way in this morning, passed the Congregational Church just up the hill here. And there was a donkey up from the church there. Palm Sunday or during the week before Passover, Jesus was supposed to have ridden a donkey into Jerusalem. Which reminds me of a story of World War I. I just came out of Lawrence of Arabia. I read a couple of his books. They're practically unreadable. They're very tough to read. But anyway, toward the end of World War I, the British finally managed to force the Turks and a few Germans out of Jerusalem. And General Allenby was about to drive his Rolls Royce through the gates into Jerusalem. And Lawrence, who was kind of an aide to the general, reminded him that Jesus had come in on a donkey, and maybe he should think about that Rolls. And he ended up walking through the gates. There you go. So here we are on Palm Sunday.
We were driving the other day, and on the radio, it said that 4 years has passed since the closing of everything due to COVID. So this is like an anniversary. And I remarked to Patricia, I was like, 4 years has gone by. I mean, you know, it's a complete blur in a lot of ways. I mean, it's amazing how much has actually changed and how much we're trying to get back to where we were, if that's even possible. I was just contemplating like the past 4 years and just in our lives anyway, the monumental changes that have taken place, health-wise, physical-wise, economically. I mean, the whole thing is just, but my mind wants to say, oh, we're back to normal. And, yeah, this is a new normal now, I guess. I just thought I'd bring that up.
For all the sorrows and all the joys we hold in our hearts and minds, let us take a moment to remember and to rejoice. May the peace of this sanctuary enter into our hearts as we share a quiet moment together. Our closing hymn is number 12, O Life That Maketh All Things New. These are the words of Andrew Pakala. As you prepare to leave this sacred space, pack away a piece of this church in your heart. Wrap it carefully like a precious gem. Carry it with you through the joys and sorrows of your days. Let its gentle glow strengthen you, warm you, remind you of all that is good and true. Until you gather here again in this place of love. Amen.
Amen.